So guys, I just got back from Solo, a Star Wars story, and usually I like to take a few days to just think about things before I post the review, but to be honest, this time around, after seeing it, I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. So here we go. We're going to give you guys the good, the bad, and ugly of Solo, a Star Wars story. Just a warning for you guys, there will be some minor spoilers in this video. So this film is classic Star Wars. Classic Star Wars makes you grin like an idiot for the entire first half of the movie. It makes you feel like a child again as you hold your breath watching a fantastic adventure unfold on screen. A feeling that I honestly haven't felt since The Force Awakens. I mean, Rogue One was good, but in a different way. Solo is no-nonsense escapism at its finest. There's no immersion-shattering political messages from either side, no one standing on top of a soapbox shouting thinly veiled and cringeworthy talking points disguised as thoughtful dialogue. This is what Star Wars used to be. And for all of you Star Wars fans out there, especially those of you who have invested their time in the expanded universe reading all the Han Solo books, comics, there's a lot of what critics might call fan servicing, but I simply call it great world building. You see, Solo takes the best parts of Han Solo's legendary background, gets rid of all the crazy, campy, and pulpy nonsense that Legends is famous for, and more or less keeps the best parts of Han Solo's backstory in the film. It definitely tweaks things a little bit so nothing is completely recognizable, but if you are a Solo fan, you're gonna geek out when you see stuff like Corellia for the first time. You're probably also gonna freak out when you see the powerful, awesome Maw at the center of the galaxy. And even if you're not a hardcore Star Wars fan, this movie really does take advantage of the Star Wars franchise and takes the viewer to a variety of really beautiful and interesting locales. The pacing is pretty much spot on for most of the movie. It might be a little bit rushed in the beginning of the movie, especially if you're not really familiar with Han Solo's backstory. Emilia Clarke steals the show as Qi'ra, or Disney's answer for Bria Theron for all you die-hard fans out there. After she reappears in Han's life the second time around, she immediately captures your attention. Now guys, I'm not a huge Emilia Clarke fan. I don't find her attractive or that interesting. I didn't really like her in Game of Thrones that much. I'm more of an Imp fan. But in this film, holy crap, can she act? I mean, her body language, her gaze, every time she demands your attention on screen, she gets it. She doesn't even have that many lines early on, but she conveys so much with just one look. She's so much more interesting than Jyn Erso, who I liked, and she's even better than Rey, who I thought was great. Hopefully we'll see her again very soon, maybe in another standalone film with, well, you'll see. And then there's Woody Harrelson. At this point in his career, you know exactly what to expect from him when he's on screen. He's solid, dependable, and always there to carry a scene for younger and less talented actors. And it's not surprising, you can see him occasionally hold back just a little bit so he doesn't completely steal the show. And more than once, I actually felt like he was more Han Solo than Han Solo. And surprisingly, I actually really enjoyed L3, this Star Wars film's resident droid. She's wonderfully stubborn and quirky and a revolutionary at heart, and the fact that no one really takes her serious makes her less threatening but also endearing. Now you guys know I'm all about, humanity first, and I don't typically like droid activism or droid rights because they're gonna kill us all, but if you're gonna do droid activism, do it the way L3 does. Brilliant character. We also see more Chewbacca than we ever have in a Star Wars film, and that's really a good thing. I never realized just how satisfying it was to see Wookiee hit someone in the face with a metal pipe, and that happens a lot. And of course, it's always awesome to see Han Solo and Chewbacca interacting with each other on screen. Like in Rogue One, this Star Wars story also has a very focused theme. It's a film about a bunch of bad guys that all seem to have a bit of goodness in them one way or another, and it keeps you guessing till the very end exactly what everyone's true nature is. As Han journeys through this film, we see all the events that shape him into the rebellion hero and smuggler he would one day become in the original trilogy. Which is really the main point of this film. It neatly ties everything together. It really answers a lot of questions we have as fans, and for those individuals who aren't fans, it still holds a good amount of excitement and adventure that anyone can enjoy. I really like Donald Glover. He's an amazing actor, and I usually enjoy everything he's in. But casting him as Lando, I think, was a mistake. Initially, I was afraid that Glover would be too laid back and lethargic like the characters he usually plays. But that wasn't really the issue in this film. Donald Glover really does try very hard, but he's just not suave enough to be the smoothest guy in the galaxy. Maybe it's because he's still too boyish. Maybe I keep seeing that Star Wars fanboy Donald Glover plays on that TV show Community, which is endearing in its own way, but I feel like I'm not watching the Lando that I know and love. But to be objective, for your average viewers who aren't hardcore Lando fans, I think Donald Glover still does an excellent job, and he kind of makes the Lando character his own, and his performance definitely stands out amongst the cast. His short romantic arc is definitely very memorable. Probably more problematic is Alden Ehrenreich's portrayal of Han. Now, to be fair to him, playing Han Solo is definitely not easy. If we're being objective, Harrison Ford in the original Star Wars film wasn't the greatest actor, and the dialogue also wasn't anything special, especially by today's standards. It was a space opera after all, right? But what made Han Solo special, what made Harrison Ford a star, was the fact that he could muscle through awkward lines with pure charisma so well that no one ever cared. A line that would be extremely awkward for anyone else would just seem cool and natural for Harrison Ford because he was a larger-than-life presence on screen. When you combine less charismatic actors with lines like that, well, you get scenes like this.
You should never have given me. My heart is beating, hoping that that kiss will not become a scar. You are in my very soul, tormenting me.
And since this is Solo, a Star Wars story, you really can't change Han Solo. You can't change his personality, the way he speaks, and you definitely can't change his dialogue to fit more modern standards. And when you get a decent actor with maybe an eighth of the charisma Harrison Ford has, you kind of get a lackluster performance. Ehrenreich does try to make his version of Han Solo stand out, mainly by doing this weird smile thing, but it doesn't really work out that well. And when he goes toe-to-toe with Qi'ra, you get a feeling that not only is Han out of his league, but so is Alden as an actor. But it doesn't really bother me completely because I think it kind of works in a certain way because Han Solo in this film is still new. He's struggling to really become the Han Solo we see in the original trilogy, and I guess the same could be said about Ehrenreich as an actor. So like that uncertainty when he delivers his line, the lack of charisma kind of fits this younger Han Solo quite well, and maybe that's what they were going for. Or maybe I'm being too optimistic, and when you see Alden, all you guys are seeing is this.
Why the pout?
Would that it were so simple. Okay.
Also, if you guys are diehard Solo fans, you're probably gonna really notice that void that Harrison Ford has left behind him. And if you aren't a diehard fan, his performance is at best not distracting from all the awesome stuff happening on screen, and at worst, just bland. Paul Bettany's face. I'm just joking. I mean, his face is terrible and ugly in this movie, but he does a great job as usual. To be honest, I really don't think that there's anything that I would describe as ugly in this film. There's nothing that I really just downright hated, but it's more about how this film will be received. I know this film probably won't do as well as Rogue One, and it definitely won't do as well as the new trilogy films. And that's a really sad thing to see because, you know, I get all of your messages, I get all of your comments, I read them. I might not reply to them because I get thousands a week, but I read them all, and I know a lot of you guys are quitting Star Wars. You're not going to watch the new Star Wars films because of The Last Jedi, and I know what that means to a lot of you guys. I know a lot of you guys are, like, true Star Wars fans, and it's a big deal for you to give this up. And the worst part is that 6 months after The Last Jedi, they come out with this movie, Solo, a Star Wars story. It's really the closest thing to an apology that we're ever going to get from Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy, at least for those who felt slighted by The Last Jedi. This Solo film really kind of made me fall back in love with Star Wars. I mean, there was some dark moments after The Last Jedi when I left the theater, and I basically thought to myself, why am I still doing this YouTube channel? You know, if I can't really connect with these new movies. But Solo really showed me that the classic Star Wars story still survives out there. It's still appealing to all audiences. It's relevant, and I think that's a wonderful thing to preserve. But if this movie doesn't do well, if it you know, really bombs, Disney won't have a financial incentive to continue making movies like this. And that would truly be the saddest thing. So guys, that's my review, and my pitch to you hardcore Star fans out there. You know, if you know one and you know they're not going to watch the movie, do try to convince them to see this. Maybe not in theaters, wait until it's out in digital release, or, you know, when it's on an airplane, but do watch this film because it really was made for us, you know. And also guys, if you want to see another opinion about this movie, check out Generation Films, where American Ben kind of gives his opinion on the movie. He also goes through this like existential crisis about his own beliefs. It's a wonderful thing to watch. Anyway guys, don't forget to subscribe, like us on Facebook, and as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.